Welcome to the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. This is your host, Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, helping business owners create financial freedom faster by mastering the language of money. Want to see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom? Complete our 40-point financial performance scorecard at wealthhealthcheck.com.au. That's wealthhealthcheck.com.au. The average score for most business owners is 18 out of 40. So complete the scorecard now and see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom. G'day guys, it's Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we're here for another episode of the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. So I've got a friend here, Kim Barrett from Your Social Voice. Kim and I were introduced many years ago when I was on the hunt for a seasoned and expert media buyer, digital marketer to help us continue to grow and scale our business. Kim's had a tremendous amount of success in his journey. He's really, really smart and switched on dude. Anybody who follows his content will know. And he's just a down-to-earth bloke, which makes it very easy for us to have a great conversation. I want to really dive into the mystical world of digital marketing and paid ads and where so many business owners get it wrong and fail, blowing a lot of money, and why others are able to kind of skyrocket themselves to success. So, Kim, thanks for joining us, mate. How you doing?
Man, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Mate, so in a nutshell, give us a bit of a background, your story, what got you to where you are, mate?
Yeah, well, so ever since I was a little kid, I've always been interested in businesses, basically different ways of making money and stuff like that, from, selling bootleg copies of the Pokemon game on floppy disk at school, up to more legitimate ventures as I grew older. But I'd always had a little bit of interest in the online marketing world. So I used to work in an accounting firm, and I set up businesses. But what got me into online marketing specifically was I used to run a forum. So back in the day, think, Facebook groups on steroids for those younger people that might not remember what forums were, but it was all based on tropical fish. My dad and I used to keep and breed tropical fish. I helped him run it. And at one point they said, look, we need sponsorship to keep things going, because then you couldn't just, a website wasn't necessarily cheap, and one with a lot of traffic wasn't cheap. It cost a lot to run. Plus then there's, promotions, trying to keep people on board using your forum, all that sort of stuff. So we need sponsorship. And I was all right, why? And I was 15 at the time. So I was just curious. I was like, why would people give us money? What are they giving us money for? Now look, we've got space at the top of our website, 10 spots, where we can have their logo. People that come to our site can then click through, go to their site. I was like, all right, who buys stuff? And then it's well, anyone that sells fish, anyone that sells fish products online, they're going to be ideal because they can get some of our traffic. And it was getting 50 or 100,000 views a month, unique website hits. So it was pretty busy forum. So I just crafted an email and I said, hey, and so I went through Google one night. It's 8:30 at night on the old dial-up modem, and I was looking up fish sites online. Where could I find them? So I've looked at all the different ones in Australia, copy and pasted all of their emails, and just did a BCC and wrote this email. And I basically went, hey, I'm representing this forum. We've got this much traffic. Took a screenshot of the back end of what showed how much traffic we're getting every month. And it said we have 10 spots available. I think 2 were already recurring people. So it was 8 left kind of thing. And what we're looking for is either between $2,000 and $4,000 worth of either sponsorship of goods that we can raffle off, auction off, sell, or just pure payment for a placement. Cheers, Kim. Basically wrote that, sent it off, very basic. And the next morning we had over $40,000 worth of commitments or money come through to PayPal and things like that that were already ready and rocking to go. So I was oh, wow, this people pay for attention on the internet. This is crazy. So I kind of started my foray into it, and then started learning about SEO, and then started learning about buying solo ads and all these different sources of traffic and all this sort of stuff, until Facebook ads came out. And then I was like, wow, this seems like a much easier way to get traffic than all of the other stuff that we were doing before. Let's give it a go. And then started testing it with the different things, and then used it enough to where I had a pretty good understanding of it. And then people just started going oh, you know what you're doing with that sort of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I've got it pretty well under control. Cool. Can you do it for us? And that's when then the whole, which I didn't even know that it was, a whole agency, started coming about, because I was oh, I thought I'd just do it and, make a bit of money for myself, help a few other people, and then realize that I need to, build a team and put structures in place and understand how to grow things at a bigger scale. So that was like the kickoff point for starting our company now, which is Your Social Voice.
Fantastic, mate. What a journey, hey? From fish forums to media buying on Facebook and other platforms. It's a long way to come. So, mate, in terms of your value proposition in a nutshell, what do you guys do for your clients at Your Social Voice?
So our goal is really to help our clients be able to focus on doing what they do best. So, they didn't get into business to become marketers, right? They got into business to help people with whatever the topic is, whatever the business or product or service is that they provide. So our goal is like up until that sales conversion point is to try and do our best job possible to remove any bottlenecks and limitations for them there. So traffic into the conversion mechanism, whether that be a sales call, online form fill out, online product purchase, whatever that is, and working with them to optimize that whole process as much as possible. So again, we originally started out with just Facebook. Nowadays, we've got Meta, Google, TikTok, a few different avenues that we kind of leverage to help people and get them as good a result as possible. And just really consistently look at that flow, see where there's a bottleneck, and then we focus on that. Because otherwise, sometimes it's like they don't need more leads, like they just need a better conversion at booking an appointment point or something like that. So that's what we try and help them with.
Beautiful, mate. And look, I think this is a really great segue because the interesting thing about marketing that I've learned, and I've learned the hard way, it's marketing is all about data. You either win or you learn, and it kind of tells us the story. And I know a lot of my mistakes came from one, not tracking the data in the first place, or two, not understanding the story that the data was telling me in order to make the right decisions that would allow me to get the outcomes that I want. Because I guess when we talk about marketing, right, business owners want growth, right? And that's ultimately what we're chasing. And that comes in the way of more marketing, more leads, more people to talk to, and more sales. So, mate, you've worked with so many businesses over the years. Where do you see business owners getting their digital marketing wrong most often?
I mean, like you touched on a fair bit there, which is like with the data. So for us, a lot of times people come in and it's like they've had before a little bit of experience doing some digital marketing, or they've been purely based off like referrals or like networks and things like that. And they don't really know how long it's going to take them to make a sale. So for example, we just had a client come on board. Their average time to sale is 77 days.
Wow.
So, and then this is high tech, they sell properties and things like that. So it takes a bit of time to go through that process. But for them, so I said, cool. So we're on the same page here that we really can't expect to see anything until 77 days and beyond. Are you guys budgeted for that? Do you have a full understanding, like ad spend, our fee, all that sort of stuff? We're good until it takes till that point. Ideally for us as well, because we can put some efficiencies in place, we hope that we can get it faster than that for them.
Sure.
Notice today they got one of their first sales. It was 23 days from lead to sale, which is awesome. But for most people, they'd be like, oh, if you don't know that information, and you haven't tracked that data before in your business, might be at the end of the first week and you'd be like, hey, I haven't made any sales yet. But they don't have that full data of not just marketing, but sales as well, importantly. And most people, again, if they're just starting out, probably haven't tracked it properly. Because it might be 10 days, it might be 100 days. Like they don't know, a lot of people don't have that in-depth look. And for me, that's the most important part is, when a sale occurs and you can take basically each step back from there and have a good understanding of those numbers, the conversion points at each one of those levels, it makes it easier for us to then go, okay, great. Here's what we can probably expect with ads. Again, probably because if it hasn't been proven before, but most people just go, ads is going to be a magic bullet that's going to solve my problem. And they look to that, and unfortunately it's normally at a bad point in time. Like most people, I wish they would come to me when their business is like got heaps of excess cash. Everything's flowing really nicely. I just want to add on another traffic source. But most of the time they're like, I'm pushing crap uphill here a bit at the moment. Well, the solution must be more leads. And then they come to us and I'm like, oh, why didn't you come to me 6 months ago when your business was like thriving and we could do it then rather than doing it when it's like a Hail Mary?
Exactly. They're looking for a lifeline. And that's not a good way to make any business decisions when you're taking a leap of faith. And look, that's been our mistake in the past as well. I honestly, looking back in hindsight, the vast majority of my mistakes around digital marketing and paid ads have been cutting them too soon before I allowed them to actually come into their own. Because the interesting thing I found, mate, is that it wasn't that the leads were shit. It's just the leads didn't know us. They hadn't been nurtured. They hadn't been indoctrinated into our way. So they eventually converted, but by that point it was too late because we'd already turned off all of the bloody campaigns. Like, how often do you see that, mate?
It happens all the time. And look, that's exactly why in an ideal world, like I teach this process called the cycle of advertising, where you have content, you add people to like a list and a database, and then you would convert them. In an ideal world, that's how we would all consistently run our ads. That's how we would run our businesses, and it will be easy. But most of us are small business owners. We need money in the bank like relatively soon. So we need it. We do need a way to be able to extract that 1 to 3% of the market that's ready to do something right now so that we can have cash coming in. And then the rest of that process, the rest of the cycle should warm those people up to that point. But for most of us, it's like when you first get started, and you're not the only one that's made that mistake. I think everyone does. We literally had a client come back to us 2 years later after working with us, and he's like, "Oh, I've just now backtracked all my sales to campaigns that you ran, but we only ran them for 90 days." Because he was like, "Oh, we've only got, like, again, in property, one sale. Don't know if we're going to do that." And then 2 years later, once they had all converted, learned about him, his business, their process, he's like, "Yeah, your campaigns did very, very well for us." But it was a length of time thing. So, and that's why now for me, ideally as well, we would have clients have campaigns in each of those categories.
Yes.
Something to bring you clients right now, something to build your list, something to warm people up and educate them about you, so that all of those three work together. Because as more people watch your content, then they join your list and then purchase, then you can refill up your front end stuff, which is getting you conversions and all the way through. And it's just like evergreen. It's almost like the infinity symbol, but with an extra little loop on the end.
Makes sense, mate. And look, the interesting phenomena I'm seeing at the moment is that there's a mass adoption of people coming to digital marketing, right? Lots of people are running ads. And interestingly enough, I was going through social media recently. I saw a property ad actually pop up. I opted into it, got the resource. And since then, all I have seen is other property ads. So it was almost as if, and I put myself in the shoes of that business, which frankly, I've actually forgotten who they were because I've just been lost in this sea of all of their competitors, is that as a consumer who's potentially looking to buy any of those particular services, the algorithm has just over optimized from my perspective to serve me all of these other ads. Then how do you get cut through? And I'm sure this is a problem that you're trying to help your clients solve, of how do you stand out in the sea of other competitors who are offering lead magnets and free books and insert resource here, that people opt in mindlessly and then forget about? Like, how do you navigate that issue in this crowded market space, Kim?
It is very, very hard to do. And that's why it is so important to have that consistency of, and again, you'll be surprised how many people have an email list and don't send emails, right? Weirdly, it's like, hey, that's money in the bank right there for you if you send the right email. Keep in touch with them, and then and you can provide content on the front end. But for what most people are experiencing, there's a really great book on advertising. You're not going to ever read it in one sitting, so never try. It's more like a resource guide. It's called Breakthrough Advertising by a gentleman called Eugene Schwartz. Now in there, he talks about like the levels of market sophistication, not how sophisticated they are as in like, oh, we drink tea with our pinkies up, but like how sophisticated and how many marketing messages they're exposed to. Because from the beginning of time to about, I think it was the 1960s, that amount of marketing or advertising is now consumed on a daily basis by most people.
Wow.
So there's no wonder why it's more noisy. But where your business is at, depending on how sophisticated or how exposed it is to marketing, like property, as you mentioned there, is a huge one. What more people have to lean towards is personification, which is basically how well do I identify with the person behind the brand, or the brand itself? Like, does it make me think of something from when I was a kid, or do I like resonate with that person? I'm like, oh, he's got a cool beard, like maybe I should listen to him. Like all of that sort of stuff comes into play because people have to create an attachment at some point somehow through that process. It used to be just about creating a unique mechanism and making it more sexy sounding, even better. But again, to a certain degree, because then as soon as you do it, guess what? Everyone else does it. And you just go down I encourage everyone when you're at the shops, go down the beauty and cleaning products aisle. Go down, look at the shampoos, and look at them. Every single one has plus this, like Pantene Pro V plus ginkgo biloba and CoQ10 enzymes and all this sort of stuff, which really means nothing,
No.
right? But they're trying to amplify it. They're trying to enhance what they have and create uniqueness around it, because it's like, we're the only product that has this. But now, if you look at, again, that entire shelf, every single one has that same thing on there. So there's no point of differentiation. Same thing if you're marketing a service-based business. You can only add so many things so fast. Then it's got to be about the interpersonalization. You've got to be able to build a relationship with someone and connect with them on that level. That makes it so much easier. So for us, it's like someone that wants to hide behind a brand is very hard to differentiate with. You can still get great cost per lead and great inquiry come through, but you then face the issue that you just said there, where the algorithm's like, you're interested in property, here's all of the property ads. You're interested
Yes.
in growing your business, here's all of the grow your business ads. Like, it gets very, very messy.
And it's interesting, mate, because we observed this trend, and I've doubled down on my content. And given I'm a very unique character, you get that cut through, right? Because you're a personality that's unique, and people want to be entertained online. And we saw the difference from when we first started doing this, where people had no idea who I was from a bar of soap, to now that when we call them, they go, "Oh wow, you're from Jax's team. That's awesome." And then you start to see that change in equity in the relationship, which just changes the game, doesn't it?
100%. And that, it just makes it, as you said, it's easy because it's easy to stand out, because people have and again, it's, they either like or they don't like. It's very easy, rather than someone coming through and you going like, oh, let me try and convince you why my business is the one to work with you. If they register after they see all of that content, they're going to be like, Jackson's a cool guy. Like, let's chat through. Like, I want to know what it is and see if we can work together.
Makes sense. And that's the way to do it, I think, moving forwards. So, mate, are there any other hurdles, obstacles that people need to be mindful of as they're growing and scaling and utilizing particularly paid ads as their mechanism for growth?
I mean, the big one is, for me, is like getting into, then, like, you've got the high level data, but the small stuff, which is really indicative of what you need to change in your ads. Because a lot of times someone will write an ad, they'll create an ad, they'll write it, they'll put it out there, and it won't work, or it won't come in at the cost that they're expecting it to, but they don't necessarily know why. So they turn it off and go, I've got to do the whole thing again. But the most important thing, like, there's like a 3-step framework, which I use, which is called niche offer copy, NOC method, which is only one of those things you need to adjust if a campaign is not working. It doesn't matter if it's a billboard campaign, TV, radio, TikTok, Meta, it was all the same. If it's not working, one of those 3 things, either you're targeting the wrong type of person for the message that you have, so there's no match there. It's either what you're presenting out there is not quite right for what they want. You might, and then again, from that book that I mentioned, the level of awareness that they have around their problems might not be where it's at. A lot of people like to talk about their solution or their product, but most people are at the level where all they are is they're aware that they have a problem. They're not sure what solutions are best for them yet. That's like 95% of marketing, is that they always try and go a little bit too far down the journey, and they like to talk about themselves or their product versus going, cool, let me talk about the problem that you're facing. I'm not going to tell you that my solution is the best one or that you should only use mine, but I'm going to talk to you about that. If I'm hitting the nail on the head, then take the next step and let's chat. But too many people try and chat to them a bit further down. And that also ties into the last part, which is then the copy, the words that they use. It's like, if you're talking to the wrong person about the wrong thing, it's not going to work. But most people just go, okay, I've got to start again wholeheartedly from scratch. And that's what takes people so long. And then they eventually go, it doesn't work for me, or digital marketing only works for some people. So no, it can work if you've got that process down pat and you can just consistently iterate. Some people hit it super fast. Like, we had a client who works with CrossFitters, who we did some coaching with, and he got like a handful of leads, and he just like couldn't get the right messaging down. I was like, cool, we know that the target audience is right, because CrossFitters are CrossFitters. There's no different way they're hiding. But we tweaked his message slightly, and he went from getting like 1 or 2 leads a day to 20 to 30 leads a day, just by adjusting the wording that he was using to make it a little bit more enticing for them, making the offer more attractive to where they're at, rather than trying to sell them on the end point, because everyone's like, oh, I want my ads to get people to buy as fast as possible, rather than going, cool, let's take them from where they are and then take them on that journey and help them, educate them. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a long cycle. You can do that in a phone call if you can get someone on a phone call, but it just means that you've got to understand where they're at so you can take them to that next level.
I get you. And I think the next part, assuming that you've got this right, I know our biggest frustration, and for many other business owners that I've spoken to that run ads, is this idea of either scale tax or ad fatigue. And I think this is
Mm.
an area where so many people think like, oh, media buy, what's the big deal? You're just putting up some ads. It's not that big of a deal. Like, what goes into scaling and optimizing a campaign so you can navigate the fatigue and that scale tax as you're trying to scale those campaigns, mate?
I just say, especially like Google, not so much, but especially TikTok and Meta, you will hit creative fatigue. You will hit the problems as you're trying to grow and increase and scale your campaigns up. So what I always recommend is as you grow an account, the focus that you need to have is then on iterations and beating your control. So essentially, whatever you start to get really good results at and it stays at that level as for a certain period of time, that becomes your baseline. That's like, cool, that's what we have to beat. And then you constantly add in new iterations that you're testing against that to see how effective they are. Because again, otherwise some people go, all right, well, like, this works. So I'll chuck in a whole heap of stuff similar to that and we'll just keep going. And it's not the case. Or they go, great, I'm getting consistently and I'm spending $100 a day. If I scale to $1,000 a day, surely it'll stay the same. No, absolutely not. It does not. Like in an ideal world, yes, that would be great. But it's like you've got to kind of build into it and then have that consistency of, all right, great. This is coming to the end of its life. We can see frequency going up. We can see costs start to increase slightly or the results start to decline slightly. We need iterations in here. We need to replace this. We need to swap these things out. Again, focusing on like creative being like the images or videos, and then the text that you use as well to reinvigorate it, and then allow it to keep going. So, in the very early days, you could probably set an ad up and have it run consistently the same for a long time. But now, again, the sophistication of the marketplace, many more people running ads. It's like it chews through those creatives very, very fast. So you do need to have the backups in there, and you need to constantly be looking at that. And then again, sometimes something can just stop working completely outside of all the normal realms of possibility. And it's like, oh, cool, this campaign just stopped, and there's no real indication as to why. So again, hence why, me personally, you not only want to have a backup from like you've got your list building, you've got your content and your acquisition method, you also want to have a few backups. So if you're running a download, you want to have a couple of downloads that you could roll into just in case something happens with that. And it may be known, it may be unknown, but you want to have the ability to roll those in so that if something does happen, you're mitigating your risk as much as possible.
Makes sense. And this is the thing that most people don't think about until shit goes wrong, right? And this is why you need experts in your corner that can help you with the wisdom of navigating this stuff across multiple businesses and doing this for decades to help you get out ahead of these issues, because these are the bottlenecks, right? There's no such thing as free money in this world. You do need to work for it. And paid ads is no different. If anything, it's a risk because you are outlaying capital up front. So you want to make sure that you're doing that the best possible way to maximize your likelihood of success. So with that being said, mate, people have listened to this, they've watched this, they've loved what you've had to say, and your strategic insight and how you use methodology to approach scaling these campaigns. What does an ideal client look like for you, mate?
Ideally for us, so we have clients that we do stuff for them and we have clients that we help coach them. Basically, if you have something that is proven, we can kind of help you and coach you to grow it. It's going to be much more costly and affordable that way, much less costly, I should say, and affordable that way. So if you have a proven model, being that you yourself can repeatedly generate several of your ideal clients every month without outside input, that's like all ideally looking for. So that might mean you're at like 10K, 12K, 8K kind of per month, but you already have a baseline and you know what's working and what's not. That's ideal for us to help basically coach and put marketing systems and processes in place. Then on the done for you side, most of the time it's someone who might be educating people at a high level or selling property at a high level. Again, they have the baseline in place and they want to add on more fuel to the fire. Most of the time, businesses doing 750, 1 mil kind of plus per year, they're the ones that we look to help with for a done for you perspective, because then we're just helping them amplify their channels. We're not helping them build their channels out. And that's really what we want to focus on from that side.
Beautiful. Awesome. So if people want to get in touch with you, Kim, what's the best way for them to reach you?
So pretty much every social media platform, if you want to find me, I'm at Real Kim Barrett, KIMBARRETT. You can find me Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all those places. And if you just want to check out some of our content, again, same thing, Instagram and YouTube has a ton there. Or if you just want to jump in and see what we do a lot, we have a free Facebook community, which is www.joinmygroup.com.au. If you hit that URL, they'll take you in there. And then if you want to check out websites, yoursocialvoice.com.au, kimbarrett.com.au, has everything we do and more.
Beautiful. We'll include all those links in the show notes. This has been awesome, mate. If you had to summarize one last pearl of wisdom for people to take away and implement as a result of our chat today, what would that be?
Well, it's probably similar to I did a video on this the other day, which is like, you want to move slowly. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Don't try and rush anything just because you heard us talk about things today. Don't go and try and change everything and completely do it anew. Take everything step by step by step, because so many people rush. And it's like, I liken it to, if you were going to do a TV ad, you would spend so much time planning. You would spend so much time like looking at the frames you were going to use to make sure that your ad was going to get you the best bang for buck. But on Facebook or on TikTok, people are like, I'll just chuck up something, see what happens. And it's like, you're probably actually going to get more views on those platforms than you would on your TV ad, but people don't treat it with the same level of like respect and awareness, if you will. So I highly encourage you to move slowly, look and assess at all the different things that you're doing, and the outputs at the other end will dramatically increase.
Beautiful, mate. That's great sage advice. So I appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom, mate. And guys, just remember, everything we've spoken about today, a good idea in theory remains exactly that, just a good idea until you put it into practice. So make sure that you implement what you've learned, but do it slowly. And make sure that you get some help. Reach out to Kim and the team. They're awesome, and they'll definitely be able to help. Kim, appreciate you making the time, mate, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you for having me.